Today, we are diving into the bizarre, ambitious, and often ridiculous world of vintage Honda. When you hear the name Honda, what do you think of? You think of the Civic, you think of the Super Cub, you think of stability, rigor, and absolute unbreakable reliability. Honda is the Casio calculator of the automotive world. But what if I told you that behind this conservative, respected name lies a history of absolute, unhinged mechanical insanity? Welcome to the 1980s and 1990s, an era when Honda was convinced that motorcycles shouldn't just be transportation, they were science experiments strapped to your crotch. Put down your sensible commuter helmet, we are going into the weird stuff. Let's ride and subscribe. The Trunk Bike, Honda Moto Compo. Our journey starts in 1981 with a problem that didn't actually exist yet. Today, tech enthusiasts talk endlessly about last-mile mobility, using electric scooters to get from a parking garage to the office. Honda predicted this exact trend 40 years early, and their solution was delightfully absurd. Enter the Honda Moto Compo. This wasn't just a small motorcycle, it was a 50cc, two-stroke, fully functional gasoline motorcycle designed to look exactly like a plastic suitcase. Honda designed a compact car called the Honda City, and they specifically engineered the trunk of the car to fit the Moto Compo. The idea was incredibly ambitious. You drive your car to the edge of a crowded metropolis, park it, pop the trunk, fold up the handlebars and seat of your Moto Compo, and ride the tiny rectangle through the gridlock to your desk. In theory, brilliant. In practice, a hilarious disaster. First, the Moto Compo weighed nearly 100 pounds. Trying to deadlift a 100-pound box of metal and gasoline out of a car trunk while wearing a business suit is a fantastic way to destroy your lower back. Second, because it was a two-stroke engine, if you didn't perfectly seal the fuel and oil caps before laying it down in the trunk, it would leak raw gasoline all over your groceries. It was slow, it handled like a shopping cart, and it looked completely ridiculous. But here is why it matters. Honda correctly identified a future human need. They just used the wrong platform. They tried to solve a modern electric problem with 1980s internal combustion. Today, the Moto Compo is a massive cult classic, proving that being 40 years too early is just a different kind of genius. The six-cylinder ego trip, Honda CBX 1000. If the Moto Compo was about making things smaller, our next bike was about making things obnoxiously, aggressively massive. In 1978, the motorcycle horsepower wars were heating up. The standard formula for a fast bike was a 1000cc inline-4 engine. It was narrow, it was light, and it worked perfectly. But Honda didn't want to just beat the competition, they wanted to humiliate them. So they built the Honda CBX 1000. Instead of 4 cylinders, they gave it 6, an inline-6 engine, mounted sideways across a tubular steel frame. Just look at this thing. The engine is so unbelievably wide it looks like it is trying to escape the motorcycle. It featured 24 microscopic valves, dual overhead cams, and a terrifying bank of 6 individual carburetors that had to be perfectly synchronized. If they went out of sync, the bike ran like a tractor. If you dropped the bike in a parking lot, you would literally crush the engine block before the handlebars hit the ground. But when it worked, oh, when it worked. The CBX produced 105 horsepower, which was staggering for the late 70s. But more importantly, it sounded exactly like a vintage Formula One car. It screamed, it howled, it was a symphony of mechanical excess. Was an inline-4 more practical? Yes. Was it lighter? Yes. Did Honda care? Absolutely not. The CBX wasn't a motorcycle, it was a rolling billboard that screamed, "We are Honda, our engineers are better than yours, and we have 6 exhaust pipes to prove it." The Geometry Breaker, Honda NR 750. Our next experiment is perhaps the most audacious piece of engineering in motorcycle history. In the late 1970s and 80s, Honda wanted to dominate Grand Prix racing. The dominant bikes of the era were two-strokes, but Honda's founder, Soichiro Honda, hated two-strokes. He demanded his team build a four-stroke engine to beat them. To make enough power to beat a two-stroke, a four-stroke needed to rev to an insane 20,000 RPM. To do that, you need a V8 engine, but the racing rulebook strictly stated, engines can only have 4 cylinders. A normal company would have compromised. Honda leaned into the engineering flex. They essentially built a V8 engine and then melted the cylinders together to legally call it a 4-cylinder. They invented the oval piston. When Honda finally released a street-legal version of this experiment in 1992, the NR750 cost an astronomical $50,000. It featured a carbon fiber body, an underseat exhaust, and a digital speedometer that reflected onto a mirror to create a 3D heads-up display. It was heavy, stupidly complicated, and a commercial failure. But it proved that Honda would literally reinvent the circle just to win an argument. The pushrod spaceship, Honda CX500 Turbo. The 1980s were defined by one word, turbo. Everyone wanted turbochargers. Honda couldn't resist the trend, but in true Honda fashion, they didn't take the easy route. Instead of bolting a turbo to a fast, modern sport bike, they decided to bolt a turbo to the most boring, heavy, sensible commuter bike they made, the CX500. This was a shaft-driven, pushrod V-twin that people lovingly called the plastic maggot. But you can't just slap a turbo on a motorcycle carburetor. The boost pressure blows the fuel back out. So, Honda had to invent a fully computerized fuel injection system, one of the first ever put on a motorcycle, and cram an entire array of sensors into the fairing to make it work. The CX500 Turbo was an engineering marvel, but a terrifying reality. The turbo lag was biblical. You would twist the throttle and the heavy bike would sluggishly roll forward. Nothing, then 3 seconds later, the turbine would hit 100,000 RPM, the boost would hit the engine all at once, and the bike would violently launch you into the nearest ditch. It was heavy, it was insanely complicated to fix, and it was entirely unnecessary. Honda spent millions developing a turbocharged commuter bike just to see if they could package the plumbing in a motorcycle frame. They could, but they never should have. The financial black hole, Honda Valkyrie Rune. Our final stop in the bizarre world of Honda brings us to the early 2000s, proving that their mechanical hubris didn't die in the 90s. Motorcycle shows are famous for concept bikes, wild, futuristic designs with crazy suspension that look amazing on a turntable but could never be mass-produced. In 2000, Honda showed off a concept called the T2. It looked like a spaceship. It had a massive 1800cc flat-six engine from the Goldwing. It had a bizarre, hyper-complex trailing link front suspension system instead of traditional forks. It had a rear fender that swooped down to the ground. The public loved it. But concept bikes never get built, right? Honda executives walked down to the engineering department and said, "Build it exactly like the concept. Do not change a single bolt." The result was the 2004 Honda Valkyrie Rune. It is, without a doubt, the most wildly over-engineered cruiser ever produced. To make the bizarre trailing link front suspension work in the real world, Honda had to machine massive chunks of solid aluminum. To make the exhaust sound perfect, they acoustically tuned the headers to mimic the roar of a hot rod car. Every single piece of chrome on the bike was bespoke. The Rune was a masterpiece, but it was a financial catastrophe. It is estimated that Honda spent over $100,000 to manufacture each Rune, yet they sold them to the public for around $25,000. Let that sink in. Honda was willfully losing $75,000 per motorcycle just so they could put a concept bike on the street and prove that they were the absolute masters of manufacturing. It was the ultimate, undeniable engineering flex. So there you have it, the bizarre, ambitious, and completely unhinged world of vintage Honda. Today, the motorcycle industry is focused on efficiency. Bikes share platforms. Engines are standardized to save money. We get multiple models built off the same parallel twin engine because it makes financial sense. But looking back at the Moto Compo, the 6-cylinder CBX, and the geometry-breaking NR750 reminds us of a time when the spreadsheet didn't rule the boardroom. It reminds us of an era when a company built a reputation for reliability and then used all of that profit to fund the wildest, most experimental science projects ever put on two wheels. Some of these bets failed. Some of them were terrifying to ride, but all of them represent a willingness to experiment, to ask what else a motorcycle could be. Have you ever ridden a 6-cylinder CBX? Do you desperately want a folding Moto Compo for your car trunk? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into mechanical hubris, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next breakdown of motorcycle history. Keep the rubber side down and watch out for that turbo lag.